development really has pushed out Black people from the city. I think we have about 4 council members yet to meet with. Council members and their staff. We met with Julia Coster, who is the point person for Council Member and Chair Phil Mendelson. And I think for example, Julia Coster understands that just the sheer amount of verbiage in the comp plan, which takes positions like let's build more housing and that will bring the housing prices down, that is not something that can happen in the next 5 or 10 years. And so that there are a lot of misstatements of reality in the comp plan, particularly the housing element and the land use element. And one of the other things I wanted to say that we have stressed to them, although the Office of Planning has terms like racial equity, resilience, that basically in the land use element and the housing element, they give no way to actually bring that in. In fact, in the housing element, they actually take out phrasing about low-income housing and substitute what Chris said, affordable housing, which even under their definition could be for a family of 4 making $151,000 a year. And in the land use element, there's nothing that requires the involvement of the impacted communities. And I think that was a strong point we made to the council members.
Thank you so much. Paul, you wanted to add quickly?
Yeah, just very quickly. All of the council members agreed to meet with the exception of one. I thought that was interesting. And I would also say that one point of emphasis was putting at the forefront of my council Office of Racial Equity for their mandate fully implemented in spirit and in the markup of the amendments. And there was, to my reading, some skepticism about the capacity of them being able to do that or not, or it being an open question at the least. And the last thing I would say that we all emphasize a community input process being critical to anything sort of going forward. So those would be my 3 observations or comments.
Paul is going to be monitoring the chat for questions. We're going to move into our speakers and ask that folks put your questions in the chat. And at the end of all of the presentations, we'll have full time to go through questions and discussion. Before I introduce our first speakers from Brooklyn Manor, I did want to invite Brian McClure from the Council Office on Racial Equity to just give us a quick update on the racial equity impact assessment process.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa, and hello, everyone. Again, my name is Brian. I'm the director of the Council Office of Racial Equity. I listened into the last session that you all held and really appreciate the work that you're doing to lift up the voices of the community. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Since that last session, I've had the opportunity to meet with several of you and talk a little bit about the work that CORE, the Council Office of Racial Equity, is doing. And we will continue to have those conversations, and we look forward to having more in-depth conversations about how we're approaching tackling the comp plan. As Paul started to mention, let me clarify any doubt that people may have skepticism that, in fact, several of my staff is on now, and we are fully immersed in providing a preliminary analysis, which we are working with the chairman's office on. And you all can expect to see a full, in-depth and very thorough, full racial equity impact assessment for the full comp plan. I am in touch with Parisa, and we are hoping to coordinate more in-depth breakout sessions where we will be able to speak through it. And so we'll be in touch following this meeting to see what that looks like. Because I know there are a lot of questions and I don't want to, monopolize the conversation. As I mentioned, we are in touch with the chairman's office. We have been fine-tuning our methodology that we will approach. We are prioritizing several of the more critical elements, including the implementation element, land use, housing, econ development, to name a few. But our goal is to go through the vast majority of the elements to provide feedback on. Looking forward to hearing the conversation, and thank you again for the work that you all are doing.
Thank you, Brian. There's some questions coming in the chat that we'll try to send to you and hopefully get a response, and maybe by email, and that we can share. And we have invited Brian to give a full presentation at one of these meetings. We appreciate you attending, Brian, and listening in. So we'll stay in touch and look forward to hopefully engaging with your office on the impact assessment process. I'm going to go ahead now and move to our first guest representing the Brooklyn Manor community. We have Akayla Crawford from the Washington Legal Clinic for the Homeless, and we have Miss Elliott, a resident of Brooklyn Manor. So I'm going to try to spotlight them and then also pull up your slides, Akayla. So let's see. Here's Akayla. Go ahead, and I'll get your slides up.
Happy Saturday, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to present on the call today, on this meeting today. Ms. Elliott is the president of the Brooklyn Manor Brentwood Village Residents Association. And I'm just going to do a quick introduction, and I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Elliott to speak a little bit more passionately about the community and why the comp plan is so significant to what the community has been fighting for over the past few years. So Brooklyn Manor, I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out, am I able to, anyway, Brooklyn Manor is actually I believe, the largest 100% affordable community left in the nation's capital. Prior to Block 7 being demolished a couple years ago, there were 535 units throughout the community. The community is consists of large 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, and 5 bedrooms. The reason that we are currently in this fight is because Mid-City, the owner of Brooklyn Manor, requested a PUD from the Zoning Commission, and the Zoning Commission approved their PUD application, despite the fact that their proposed redevelopment is supposed to triple the density of the community to about 1,700 units, while reducing the affordable units to only 373 units. And of those units, making 200 of them specifically for seniors, essentially breaking up multi-generational families that a lot of the working class and low income residents at the community that consist of. So luckily, because of the comprehensive plan, we were able to file an appeal of that zoning commission, that PUD application on behalf of Mid-City. We appealed that at the DC Court of Appeals. And I know you have the slides on here. I didn't want to go through all of them specifically because I want to allow Ms. Elliott to really be able to speak to what the experience has been like for tenants, but I'm just getting a quick overview. So again, of those 373 units that Mid-City was only going to bring back, of the 535 affordable units, 200 of them would be exclusively for seniors, breaking up multi-generational families, as well as they were getting rid of 5-bedroom units, all 5-bedroom units, almost all 4-bedroom units. I'm sorry, all 4-bedroom units and almost all 3-bedroom units. They are attempting to do this without even, let me just step back actually. So at the zoning commission hearings, the former attorney, Will Merrifield, who was working with the association at that time, he demanded that before the zoning commission actually determined if this PUD should be approved, that they look at the current demographics at the property. Is it possible to go to slide 9, I believe, slide 8 or 9? Teresa, that has the 3 different buildings side by side, just to quickly touch on those. Not sure how to do that, I apologize. But let me just, without even looking at the slide. So
One of these
at the
slides.
hearing, at the zoning commission hearing, here we go. So this is a good, go back to that last slide, please.
Can you pull it
It
up?
was brought to the zoning commission's attention at the hearing before the PUD application was even approved, that in order for the zoning commission to determine that this application is consistent with the comprehensive plan, they absolutely needed to see the demographics to make sure that a reduction in, actually a complete elimination of 5-bedroom units and 4-bedroom units and majority of 3-bedroom units would not displace families based on the demographics at the site, at the community at that time. At that time, there were families in 5 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 1 bedroom. So on its face, the application eliminating 5-bedroom units, 4-bedroom units, and 3-bedroom units on its face displaced Black families, working class families at the property. And despite having raised those concerns and pointing out that the comprehensive plan is to ensure that any type of redevelopment, especially when you're seeking a PUD in order to do it, must benefit that community. And there's no benefit when you are automatically displacing those residents. So Ms. Elliott, I wanted you to just speak on some of the examples of what Mid-City has been doing over the years since we have appealed that decision.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Minnie Elliott. I'm the president of the Resident Association. I've lived in this property 27 plus years. I was here in the beginning when we fought to have different activities and things in the property. But over the years, it has changed. Basically, the property was built for working class people, government workers in the beginning. And after a certain length of time, they moved on, and the owner, Eugene Ford, which he had LLCs with him, decided to make their property affordable for large families because he knew that was needed. And that's how he became well known as affordable person to own property. Moving down the line a little bit after that, he started doing cosmetic, building up the property. But everybody know when you do cosmetic, if you don't keep up cosmetic, then you'll start having problems. So he started, HUD started writing him up for different types of things that he wasn't doing, mold growing and things like that. That's when I came and played with a lot of the community and the property, tried to save the property because they were going to foreclose on his property. That's when Ms. Henderson from HUD came out to Israel Baptist Church with the people here, people in wheelchairs, crutches and everything else, and pleaded with them not to close the property down, to give him a chance to renovate the property. And that is how the people in our community help save the property. And that's why I feel so great about the fact that they should be able to stay here and it should be open to affordable. Because had not been for them, he would not have this property. During the yes.
Can you share with them some of the examples of how they have been attempting to try to reduce tenants that are currently on the property that may be in like some of the larger size units, just some of the underhanded tactics that Mid-City has been doing over the past couple of years?
Well, I can give one recently. Just here recently that the young lady called me. We had multi-generation family where the mother and the daughter and her 2 kids lived in an apartment. They had a 3-bedroom apartment. When the child turned 18, they got another lease and may insist that the mother with the 2 kids move into her own place. They moved her out into a 1-bedroom. She has a son that's 20 years old and he has mental problems. You have a daughter is 14 years old, I believe, and all three of them is in one bedroom apartment. Um, the young lady's mother called me crying and things like that because the boy has had a nervous breakdown, especially with this virus and things like that. So people are not able to get out to do anything. That's one incident. The other incident is that right now repairs, they kind of starving the property. $47 million was given to the property in order for the development. Once that money was given to them, they decide starving the property. A lot of the people who work here start resigning or quitting. So now repairs, we're not able to do the repairs or anything else. They put gates up. This has never been a gated property before, but it's a gated property. Our kids cannot play out on the grass. They can't even be outside to walk up and down. If not, we have security. They even brought security in here to write up different types of rules and regulations where people can't do this. If an ambulance come and somebody is ill, they have the whole security force to knock the door down, trying to get into somebody's apartment to see if something else is going on. So there is a lot of things that they're doing over here with the people here at the property. A lot of people, we cannot even pay our rent. You can't go in the buildings and everything else. To pay your rent, you can't go up to the club. The playground is closed, so the kids can't even be up there, even if it's a minimum of 1 or 2 people, they lock that. Another thing that they are doing that I noticed that they sending letters around state that they have a team of people that they're going to knock on your door and come and visit you to let you know the update of the building of the properties and things like that. I had to let people know they did not have to let them in. They don't even have to let us as resident president in the house if they don't want to. But they are telling these people and giving them the idea that they can come in to try to force them to sign papers and things stating that they're behind the development and all these other things. So no, we have been going through a lot of things here on the property. People are not aware of that. McDuffie, we've talked to him and he's very, very much aware of what's going on. He even knew the owner of the property before this, when he even did a study stating that we do need large apartments because more people that are coming into DC are having children and they want places that they can afford to live. And we've even tried to negotiate with them to let them know that why is it that we cannot help with the building of the property, to train some of the people here on the property in order to work, to be able to purchase or to be a part of the building and things like that. They refuse to meet with us.
Right. Those are really good examples. Thank you for that, Ms. Elliott. And just to kind of tie everything back in, like I stated before, they have been on a mission to reduce the number of large units. They're breaking families up to show, oh yeah, we don't have that many people actually in 3 bedrooms, so we don't need to bring back 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, or 5 bedrooms. So these tactics, which are extremely harmful to the current residents, they're breaking the families up. They're pretty much making living conditions like a prison. There are gates everywhere. There's no green spaces for the kids to play, for anyone to just be able to walk outside and just enjoy the community that they once were able to enjoy and be safe and just, you know, have community with their fellow residents. This appeal is pending, and our hope is that it will go back to the zoning commission so that they will have to go back and say, hey, you're right, we didn't have the actual evidence to support that no one would be displaced and that this actually is a benefit to the community. At the same time, we are also aware that there's movement going on to try to upflum the Brooklyn Manor area, which essentially, I'm not even sure what that will do. If they upflum the area, then they will have a matter of right to be able to reduce the amount of units, and the tenants won't even have a process to be able to go in and file an appeal and on the grounds of the zoning commission violating the comprehensive plan. So that's why we are very focused on, supporting the DC Grassroots Planning Coalition's proposed amendments and just, advocating against the proposed amendments from the mayor. Ms. Elliott and Beth, I'm sorry, is the organizer for the association, and she's been dropping a lot of important information in the chat. If anyone wants to go to the website, hear any more details about the appeal and what the residents are fighting for. Beth, did you want to add anything to, just everything Ms. Elliott and I spoke to?
I think, sorry, I think we're good now. I think you all covered it. I mean, the main point is that Mid-City is getting the permission to triple density, which is incredibly lucrative. That means the property value is getting increased 3 to 5 times. And in exchange for that, they're reducing affordability and getting $47 million. And in addition to that, they're backdooring this upfluming process, which Empower DC in this group has been saying is going to be used to remove the leverage that communities have to oppose damaging projects and work around the ability for communities to appeal and giving away density in exchange for nothing. So that's what everyone on this call has been saying is happening, and that is literally happening at Brooklyn Manor, even though the PUD, which is being appealed right now, already allows the upzoning. So there's no reason to do that unless they're trying to end around the process, which is exactly what everyone has been saying the purpose of these changes are.
Thank you all so much for being here with us, and we have some questions for you, but we're gonna hold them, if that's okay, get through a few more presentations, and then we'll be directing some questions to you in a little bit. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Miss Elliott.
Thank you, Carissa.
Standing strong for her community as always. I'm gonna invite next Sabrina Rhodes, ANC Commissioner for the Ivy City community. And I am going to bring up some slides for her. Just a second here. You can start talking if you want.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Sabrina Rhodes, and I'm a native Washingtonian, and I currently live in Ivy City and serving as the ANC Commissioner for DO1. Also, I'm an organizer with the Empower DC organization. Today, I just want to share with you how the proposed comprehensive plan will impact our community. We are especially opposed to the changes of the future land use map. First, I'd like to share just a little bit about Ivy City. Ivy City is a small residential community. It was founded in 1872 and one of DC's first and oldest Black communities. And as you can see on this historic map, Ivy City was somewhat remote and surrounded by fields and farms when originally established. Then our community worked from its earliest days to fight for the needs of the community members. Here's an article from 1895 where community residents are organizing to win improvements. And one of those improvements they fought for was a new schoolhouse. Because of their efforts, the Alexander Camel School was opened in 1911, the same year the Ivy City Civic Association was formed. This is Deacon Crow, who led the Civic Association through tough times in the 40s and 50s. They fought against environmental injustices, such as an attempt to place a dump across from the school when the children were in the school. Camel School was the heart of Ivy City, serving not only as an elementary school for Black children, but as a center for civic life. DC Parks and Recreation offered different programs in the building as well. When it closed by the city in 1977, the loss was extremely detrimental to the community. There have been continuous and ongoing efforts to reopen the school and the community center to serve the many needs for children here, adults and seniors. In 2002, a group of seniors, many of whom were alumni, they successfully petitioned for the school to become an historic landmark, hoping that it would lead to the restoration of the school. But now in almost 20 years, the school remains vacant and our community continues to be deprived of the chance to use it for the programs that will serve and uplift our residents. In 2012, Empower DC worked with our community to fight off an unwanted attempt by then Mayor Vincent Gray to allow our historic site to become a polluting bus depot. In 2016, Mayor Bowser released a request for proposals for the site. Working with Empower DC, our community assembled a development team and proposed a model community development with the Community Land Trust, affordable housing and healthcare. But Mayor Bowser rejected our plan and instead plans to give the majority of the land to politically connected developers who envision building dense, high-cost housing surrounding the school, which is going on around the whole city. All this time, the comprehensive plan has echoed our call for the Alexander Camel School to be restored for public use and for the grounds to be preserved as green space. Yet the city has ignored the comp plan. Now the Office of Planning has approved a request from developers to change the future land use map for the Camel School site and the two adjoining properties making up a whole entire city block right in the middle of our community. This is in addition to the changes of the Office of Planning proposes for the New York Avenue corridor. Another developer is attempting to get a flum change for the property on Fenwick Street. We met with our councilman, Kenyon McDuffie, and we have requested that Councilman McDuffie oppose these flum changes. Instead, secure funding for Ivy City to have a small area plan. This is necessary because our small historic Black community is rapidly gentrifying and all of the development decisions are currently developer driven. We also ask for your support to oppose the change to the flum to secure a small area plan for Ivy City and also to restore the Camel School. We are asking Mayor Bowser to put our community needs first and allocate money needed to restore the Camel as a community center in her upcoming budget. The youth of Ivy City led a march this past summer asking for a safe place to play. Our historic heart currently remains fenced off from the community. Please join us, everyone, in calling on the mayor to fix Camel now by going to empowerdc.org/fix_Camel_now. And just send our email or tweet to that tinyurl.com/CamelAction to pledge your support for upcoming actions. We are seeking resolutions of support from all Ward 5 ANCs and civic associations. And please let us know if you can help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. There may be some questions for you later, but we really appreciate your presentation. And next, I'm going to call up Aristotle Teresa and Detrice Belt representing the Berry Farm community. Let's see. Ari and Detrice, let me know which one of you would like to start. Maybe Detrice, you want to go first?
Yes. Okay, so I'll just be giving testimony, just going over, yep, let me pull it up, please. Just one of my testimonies speaking on the Berry Farms redevelopment. Let's see. And good afternoon to everyone. Let's see. Okay, I'm here. I thought I was here. Okay, hello, my name is Detrice Belt. I was displaced from my home in Berry Farm because of the new communities initiative development there. And I'm now going on 3 years being away from my neighborhood. I'm also the president of the Berry Farm Tenants and Allies, which has been working to ensure Berry Farm residents' rights are protected. We became aware through an Urban Turf article that the Office of Planning was planning to file for a rezoning of Berry Farms. Prior to this, we had not heard anything about these plans from DCHA, POA, the developers, or DEMPAD, much less the Office of Planning. As we understand it, this move to create the Berry Farm zone is a way that the city plans on circumventing the PUD process. It gives us residents and community members no input on what will happen with this redevelopment that has been promised for us for 15 years now. When we appealed the Zoning Commission's Berry Farm PUD approval, we found a way to make our voices and concerns heard, and it was legitimized by the Court of Appeals in the decision handed down by the judge in 2018. Shortly after the decision, the developers, DCHA, and the city withdrew their PUD, and since then, we did not get any real information on what was going on. Were it not for the Urban Turf article I mentioned before, we would have no idea what the city was planning for my neighborhood. We are the most affected, but the least informed about what is happening. We are always last to know about plans that will greatly affect our future and ability to return to Berry Farm. We know that this move by the Office of Planning also involves changing the comprehensive plan and its future land use map. As people, we have experienced promises that have yet to be delivered. As people, we have seen the new communities initiative fail whenever a redevelopment has been planned. We know how important it is to have more safeguards than less. We need to have the PUD process available so we have an avenue for redress and not a process that allows developers to do what they want without our input. Last thing is Berry Farm residents need a guaranteed actionable right of return. We need all of the public housing on our property replaced. We need small business and home ownership opportunities. As I've mentioned, I've been away from Berry Farm for nearly 3 years now. Other residents have been away for a longer time. We need systems in place that take our voice into account and not use us to create more money for developers. Thank you, everyone.
So much, Detrice. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight Ari to share a little bit more about the zoning process and the attempt to change the zone and the FLUM for Berry Farm.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ari Teresa, and I represent an attorney that represents Berry Farm Tenants and Allies Association. I first came across this case back in 2014, and residents, including Detrice Belt and BFTAA, were fighting for the right to remain in their properties. And the comprehensive plan as it existed was strong leverage to argue for development in place and residents not having to be displaced from their property, and to honor the New Communities Initiative, which was to allow development to be built first, or the affordable housing to be built first so people don't have to be displaced. As Detrice mentioned, we did find some vindication in the Court of Appeals when we won our case, even though it was 3 years after filing it. In the meantime, the city had continued its disinvestment of the Berry Farm area and was pushing residents out of the site from the time we first appeared at the zoning commission all the way up until 2018. And by the end of 2018, even though we had won the case, they had totally removed people from the site. As was stated, the developer then withdrew their PUD application, and I guess back channel worked with the Office of Planning to develop a text amendment and a map amendment. These are both happening under rulemaking proceedings, which do not involve the rights of parties. They primarily involve broad policy. And this is interesting because Berry Farm, of course, involves a discrete number of residents. We know who they are, we can name them, and their rights are being infringed by not allowing them a contested case hearing. And so the current fight that we're in now is before the zoning commission at these rulemaking proceedings, which they've kind of used as an end around so they don't have to go through the PUD process again. And, you know, there is some protection there because, like I said, this isn't wholly appropriate for rulemaking, because in a rulemaking, you can't really specify what goes at the site, even though we know that there needs to be public housing there. There needs to be guarantees about public housing. And there are a lot of active policy documents that contradict what they're trying to do there. And so the fight really now at these rulemaking proceedings is to guarantee that residents can return, because, you know, if they approve this, there's no guarantee that they can return. There's a right of, you know, there's a right to return and all that stuff. But we know that as a policy or as a legislation, that stuff can be overturned, and it has been overturned. There's a long history of DC government not honoring its promises and even its policies. And the NCI is one example of that, which is applicable here to public housing residents. And we know that unless there's some sort of guarantee enforceable by law, that, you know, nothing is going to happen how they say it's going to happen. And so we're fighting for those guarantees by law. Hopefully we can get some sort of covenant guaranteeing people's right to return, because through the rulemaking proceeding, there's nothing that would allow that. But I mean, now we're in like the third level of disenfranchisement here, because even with the rulemaking proceeding, it's not consistent with the comprehensive plan. So if I could give a quote from somebody from the Office of Planning, Maxwell, I think her name is Maxwell Brown. She states, the future land use map indicates that the site is appropriate for moderate density residential. Apartment and retail uses proposed on the southwestern portion of the site could be considered as being inconsistent with the current moderate density residential recommendation of the plan. Proposed row dwellings, semi-detached units, flats, and uses are not inconsistent with the plan. Well, I think I misread what I was supposed to be reading, but yeah, I was supposed to stop the sentence before. But yeah, basically, they know it's not consistent with the plan as it exists right now. So they put through this rulemaking, and if we didn't oppose them there, they would have approved the rulemaking, even though it was inconsistent with the current comprehensive plan. But since we appeared, since we showed up, since we saw the article, they're delaying it now. So like the hearing was in December, they're not going to do anything until after the comprehensive plan is rewritten and the new FLUM happens. So even their rulemaking can become consistent with the FLUM. So like I said, if you're keeping track, we're at like the third level of disenfranchisement now. At our contested case hearing, we were disenfranchised at the rulemaking, and now we're being disenfranchised by the FLUM. And so you see all of these machinations by the Office of Planning and the Zoning Commission and the Mayor's Office is all kind of designed to just make it so their policies can be pushed through more easily, not have to hear the voices of residents, not have to address their concerns. And that's why it's important that we make sure that the FLUM and the comprehensive plan and all of these policy documents include some sticking points so we can even get to the point where we win an appeal or we can even file an appeal. And with that, I'm gonna give it back to Parisa.
Thank you so much, Ari and Detrice. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask Paul, who's been monitoring the chat, to read some of the questions that we've received so far for our panelists. And then we still have one more presentation, but I thought we might want to pause and take some questions now. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the share and spotlight all of our guests so that we can direct some questions to them. Go ahead, Paul. We'll take maybe about 10 minutes of questions now.
Great. Okay. You can hear me, yes?
Yes.
So we have some core questions which we'll leave for later. Is that right?
Yes,
we have some questions for Brian McClure, which we'll leave for later. And on Brookland with Miss Minnie Elliott, there was a question. There were several questions. One, a question about the impact of opportunity zone designation in the comment.
What question are you asking?
No, there was a question from Elizabeth about what is the impact of opportunity zone designation on the comp plan?
You want to answer? You want to answer that?
It's a major impact. It's probably why we're seeing all these underhanded tactics and trying to upplumb. I mean, there's money to be made in these communities that are currently, more affordable. So yeah, that's the opportunity zone is absolutely, an issue. I mean, I can't really speak to more. Maybe Ari can add to that. Opportunity zones is not like my specialty, but obviously that's a way for people to get in on the development and to make money off of, these luxury developments and the displacement of people who currently can afford the existing affordable communities and, to make room for these luxury developments. Ari, you want to add to that?
About opportunity zones, well, yeah, it's just another giveaway, pretty much. I mean, yeah, I haven't seen anyone from my community benefit from them.
This is Chris Williams. I agree about what has been said for opportunity zones. And so to add more to what Ari was saying is that they get a hefty developers tax break, federal tax break, deferment even, for building in underinvested areas. But there are a couple problems with that. The first problem is that there is no mandate to produce affordable housing in these opportunity zones. And if you look at the map for opportunity zones in the district, they tend to coincide with concentrations of minority populations. But here is the rub. The rub is that though this was passed in 2017 and took effect in 2018, we already have data showing that opportunity zones are associated with gentrification, with Black displacement. We've not yet, the Biden administration has not yet gotten to this particular issue. I don't believe their HUD secretary has yet to be confirmed, Marcia Fudge, but we've got to somehow sort of prevent this from really taking place in the district. And we know that this upflumming map will really catalyze that.
And I just wanted to add too, I remember a couple of years ago, there was an event in Shaw about opportunity zones that McDuffie was actually speaking at. And I remember asking him about why he was pushing opportunity zones and how that could affect constituents in his ward, specifically Brooklyn Manor, and how he just has not stepped in to protect those constituents. So everything Chris said, just how opportunity zones just perpetuate the displacement of Black and brown people in the city, low income, working class people, and how our elected officials are most, like, you always hear them talking about the importance of opportunity zones. So their messaging conflicts. Do you want to make sure that, you know, you're able to protect your constituents from displacements, or do you want to actually perpetuate the actual, institutions that are driving that displacement? Like, you have to pick a side and strongly support that, but it's been more clear that they support the individuals and institutions that have a direct effect on our residents being displaced.
So just to continue on this thread, and there's a few more questions here, but mandate edit on the opportunity zone legislation, in your view? I guess that's an open to any one of the three of you.
Paul, I think you cut up a little bit. Say the question again.
Should a mandate be offered on the opportunity zone legislation, on the federal opportunity zone legislation? Should a mandate be attached to it?
I'm not really following when you say should a mandate be attached to it. What kind of mandate? Like a mandate that there's protections to protect people from displacement? Not so sure.
It's a question from Elizabeth.
Yes, so the answer to that question is yes for protection, but keeping in line with what Chris was saying about a mandate being written into the opportunity zone. I guess, is it legislation or it?
It was passed under the opportunity zones.
Yeah, I presume
under the Trump administration as a part of the 2017 tax code overhaul. And so Congress would have to pass new laws to essentially nullify that.
Got it.
Right, so my question was, should we be trying to pressure Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton to put pressure on the Biden administration to do that, or should should pressure be more geared towards the comp plan to have the language there, the protection there?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was another question from Jean about raising. Has raising or rebuilding begun at Brooklyn Manor? Have residents been moved out?
So raising, yes. When I was opening up, I said there were 535 units at the site. There was demolition to Block 7, which I'm not sure how many buildings. Ms. Elliott, I know that's the building in front of yours. Was that just one entire building or a block of buildings like on there?
It was Block 7, and they did it really quickly. They wasn't supposed to, but they started out, yes.
They did it literally right. I believe they may have done it after we filed the appeal too, but very quickly after the zoning commission approved the PUD application. They haven't officially started moving tenants because the appeal is the application is pending due to the appeal. But again, there's been a lot of constructive evictions with, you know, evicting people for a couple dollars, being late on rent, conditions, which Ms. Elliott spoke on. You know, that's basically making people so uncomfortable that they're going to leave on their own, even if they don't have anywhere better to go. Breaking up families and just a lot of issues. So no, they haven't, like, in a way, in regard, you know, associated with the redevelopment plan, they haven't moved people, but people have been displaced and moved off the property, either willingly or unwillingly, based on a lot of the tactics that we're seeing.
Okay,
I can
great.
piggyback on that too, because of the fact that when they did a rush job, they moved the people from Ward 7. Some of us had to move 3 times. in order to get a place to stay, because they moved people out so fast and was tearing the building down that they did not take into account that they had larger families that need to go places.
Great, thank you. For Miss Sabrina Rhodes, a question from Denise about, so how, do you have any thoughts about how to stop and run the process with the proposed slum changes?
Can you repeat that again, because you broke up?
How, are there any thoughts about how to stop an end run around the PUD process with the proposed flum changes?
How to stop a what?
How to stop the disregard of the PUD process with the proposed flum changes? Are there any
Well, the only way
thoughts about how to stop them?
the only thing that we can do is ask for a small area plan to get the residents involved in the planning process. That's what the developers want to do. They want to stop or prevent the residents and the ANCs from having any kind of input what happens in their communities. So what we plan to do here in Ivy City is request a small area plan and get the residents organized so that we can, whatever development happens in Ivy City is because we put input into those plans.
Okay, great.
Did I answer? Did I answer that okay, Denise?
It sounded good to me. That was a question from Denise, but
Okay.
there's a question for the Berry Farm cohort, Ari and Detrice, about a land trust. Has there been a land trust developed for Berry Farm?
No, there hasn't, that I know of.
Okay, thank you. And there was another question about from Caroline. In the RFP process, what flum designation was assigned for the Camel site?
I can speak to that because I don't think Sabrina was as involved during the RRFP, which was in 2016. There was no discussion about the flum at that time. So.
Okay. So that's all the questions that I have from the chat, Carissa.
Okay, wonderful. And there'll be time for more questions and discussion in a little bit, but I want to thank these panelists and then invite our last presenter, Margaret Dwyer, who's going to speak to us about some of the efforts her and her Ward 3 neighbors have been making to get true affordability and not these empty promises. So I'm going to move our spotlight here. Let's see. And Margaret, do you want me to pull up the PDF document?
That would be great.
Would that be helpful? Okay.
Yeah, that would be great. Hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. I want to start by the obvious and really giving all thanks to Empower and Grassroots for doing this work and driving this work. Everything that we've done in Ward 3 has come from the activist leadership that has emanated from Empower. Housing justice work in Ward 3, but we hadn't ever really joined forces until this effort. We began with using, taking Empower's first action in the wards that they wanted us to contact our council members and ask them to hold a roundtable in every ward about the comp plan. And our council member, Mary Che, refused to do that, saying that there had already been enough discussion about the comp plan and that a roundtable wasn't necessary. So our team hooked up during the chat in one of these meetings. We gave, we made sure we knew how to contact each other. and we held a conversation and decided to push Councilmember Che on that. And we had our first meeting with her. She did agree to meet with us. And we learned a lot about how to be smarter about what we were doing. We learned where she was coming from. She said that, so she said the usual things that one expects, that, you know, she's for affordable housing, and that it can be achieved through greater density and IZ in the building of new buildings, and that that means that also later on, other units will become more affordable, and the whole sort of trickle down model that has gotten us where we are today, really. And so she did agree. She suggested that we make more concrete language and agreed to talk to us again after we had done that. So, so we did. And what you're looking at here is the document that we submitted to her of 15 proposed changes or additions to the comp plan for Rock Creek West, which is our designated area in the comp plan. And our starting point in our conversation was really the comp plan that we had gotten us here. And we have lost 40 to 50,000 African-American residents in the district under that comp plan. And if that were happening in Sarajevo or Kigali or Yangon, the US would be calling that ethnic cleansing. And here we're just saying, oh, you know, these are normal market forces and it can be handled through these patchwork of very moderate policies, or calling things like 80% AMI affordable housing. So our language pushed back on all of that. You can see there are 15 suggestions here, but the first one I think sums up what we're saying, that to respond to this kind of displacement, we need to act big and bold. And so our first ask was that any new housing conversion or conversion to housing in the Rock Creek area provide at least 2/3 affordable units, and that half of those units provide at least 3 and 4 bedrooms to accommodate families. And we define that as 30% of income on rent and utilities. Of course, you know, the response to that is that that's impossible. No developer will ever do that. And again, the response being that the IZ would get us where we needed to go. So we had another document that we prepared that showed that we're going to submit to her that shows if the mayor says that she wants us to have basically 2,000 units of affordable housing, not clearly defined what affordable is, but anyway, affordable housing in Ward 3, what would it take using IZ or IZ plus to get us there? And basically, and these documents are available for us to share, and other people could use these too in other wards, in other areas. What this table shows is the impossibility of getting to the mayor's goal. And the goal isn't bad for a floor. It isn't a bad goal, 2,000 new units of affordable housing, assuming enough of them would be deeply affordable. But it would require the building of like dozens of huge complexes to get the crumbs of IZ to accumulate to make 2,000 units of housing. So we met with her. We met with Phil Mendelson's staff. We're meeting with the at-large candidates, the at-large council members. The only one who has refused to meet with us is Christina Henderson. Everyone else, I think, is meeting with us or has met with us. And we're pushing this notion that we're never going to get there incrementally and that we need to be bold. And one of our asks, we have of the 15 asks, 5 of them are immediately actionable. I think it's number 10, suggests that we take advantage of the opportunity presented by the bankruptcy of the Wardman Marriott Hotel in Woodley Park is in bankruptcy and is going to become available for redevelopment. And so we have been really pushing that, and we're not alone. There's, again, springing from this group, Caitlin has been leading an ad hoc team of people from across the district, including us, to say, let's think big about this opportunity. So far, Mary Che has not embraced that, but she moved forward slightly in Woodley Park by, after our prompting, requesting a small area plan, which would give a little more input and give us a little more traction to do what we want to do. But what we're going to push back again with is the notion that a small area plan takes time, and that Boardman is available now and is not going to be available forever. And we're going to actually challenge her and hope that she will call together other members of council and other interested parties to put together a method by which we could actually do something visionary at this incredible opportunity. And this won't be the only opportunity in Ward 3. Retail is collapsing. The Lord and Taylor site is going to become available. Another hotel could become available. We are going to have opportunities to build the kind of housing would make a real difference in the ward and in the district. So if you live in Ward 3, I'm going to drop my email in the chat. Please contact me. Please join us. We need you, because the conversation here has been dominated by the so-called smart growth folks. If you're interested in working on the Wardman, you can reach out to Caitlin. We really need folks on that too. It's really complex, but definitely worth the effort. So that's the news from Ward 3. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Margaret. We really appreciate what you're sharing, and these initiatives like that around the Wardman. Caitlin Kochalova from the Washington Legal Clinic for the Homeless is she just put her email in the chat for those, especially Ward 3 residents, but anybody who wants to be part of that initiative. Paul, do we have any questions in the chat for Margaret?
Yes, we do. One question from Karen is, what were the dates for the meeting with Council Member Che, and when did you submit your suggestions to her?
Honestly, I don't have my calendar in front of me. We had the first meeting maybe a couple of months ago, and the second one about a week ago. And we're going to respond with these the new documentation of the spreadsheet showing the incredible density that would be required to live up, to reach the goals with the crumbs of the IZ model.
Margaret, this is Karen. The reason I'm asking about the approximate dates, I wasn't trying to pin you down. I just get a general sense of the dates when these various things were going on with Mary Che, is that I myself have emailed Mary Che independently, just speaking for myself, to try and move her in precisely all these directions, including the effort on behalf of the Wardman. And she finally had
this is Ivan Rhodes.
We need to mute their line, please.
Hello, this is Ivan Rhodes. I'm at the Union Station.
She finally had her chief of staff, Jonathan Willingham, email me about 3 days ago, sort of pushing off all the comments I'd made along the lines that you've outlined here, why, there's just nothing to worry about. What do you mean by X? Tax assessments aren't the same things as subsidizing or incentivizing private developers, blah, 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 blah. And so I was just trying to get a sense of where my outreach to Mary date-wise fell within your efforts.
Karen, I'm gonna ask that you follow up with Margaret about
Yes,
that.
I'd
because
like
that's
to.
very
If Margaret
specific.
would put her email address in the chat. Can you do that, Margaret?
I did.
She did, yeah.
Well,
Okay, we'll make sure
I
that you
see
get
it.
connected.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Parisa, there were some other just general questions for Margaret about how to access your materials, the papers, the studies, and supporting materials. So multiple
We'll
questions.
We'll include them in a follow-up
Okay.
email to this. Any materials that we're sharing that people want, we can
And-
send them.
And there's a question from Reginald about to the Ward 3 folks about the Mazza Gallery and the Lord and Taylor properties. Any comments about those?
Yeah, so definitely those are possibilities that we're also going to push. And honestly, I think that Shay's office is more amenable to those properties than to the Wardman, but we're not backing down on the Wardman because the Wardman is perfect. It's perfect. It's big. It has a lot of potential. It has a commercial kitchen that could include workforce development opportunities. And it's a chance for us to create the kind of housing that would enable folks who work in our ward, the folks who work in our grocery stores and drugstores, and to be able to live in our ward and access the amenities of the ward. So we're not going to back down on the Wardman. But yes, we're also, so there's the Mazza Gallery, Lord and Taylor, and then the whole corridor between the Friendship Heights Metro stop and the Tenleytown Metro stop also has possibilities. And there are other corridors as well around Van Ness. So I just want to say too, that it doesn't feel like much to move her from, no, we're not really going to talk about the Wardman to, oh, I'm pushing for a small area plan for Woodley Park. It's not everything we wanted, but I really think that that the activism spawned out of this meeting with Empower and Grassroots has moved her a little bit. And I think that it's really worth continuing these efforts. And if other wards want to do these kinds of things, you'll have our documents and hopefully they'll help you out too.
Okay, Parisa, there's a few more questions.
Directed to Margaret. Okay, let's give it just a few more minutes and then I want to open it up to the next
Okay.
step.
Okay, one is about cannabis tax money and if it's designated for affordable housing. The other is about can DOP be used to convert the bankrupt hotels into social housing projects?
DOPA, I'm assuming. Margaret, did you guys look into DOPA for Wardman? No, okay.
I don't know. You're beyond my level of expertise.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think that's it. I think that's it, Parisa.
Okay, thank you both so much. So Caitlin put in the chat that DOPA is on their radar, as is social housing. And so DOPA, for those who don't know, is the District Opportunity to Purchase, which has never, to my knowledge, been implemented. But it does give, you know, similar to the tenant's first right to purchase, it gives the city the opportunity to purchase property and use it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, we have just a couple next steps also that we're going to share in a minute, but I want to invite, we have 79 people on this meeting right now. If you are also in a community that's impacted by proposed FLUM changes or comp plan changes, or if you are working towards specific changes that you want to speak briefly to or share briefly to, please raise your hand. And we will call on you. I'm just going to take a minute here to see if any hands are raised. Got 2 hands raised. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm going to go to Ambrose Lane. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, Parisa, and thank you everybody for being on this call. I had a conversation with Chris Otten actually just yesterday, and we had been playing some phone tag, and we've been talking about efforts in Ward 7. I'm also a member of the Fletcher Johnson Task Force, which is a community elected task force in conjunction with ANC 7E to oversee and implement our ideas in terms of the redevelopment of Fletcher Johnson, which is the 4th largest parcel of land to be redeveloped in the District of Columbia. It's 15.3 acres. There has been a proposal that was accepted by DMPED. The community, for the most part, is not really embracing this project, and neither is the task force. We're gonna see if we can work with the developer to develop the type of amenities that Ward 7 needs. And let me just say this too, that all of the wards, all 8 wards need to have a balance of housing that includes highly affordable or very affordable to market rate. There is no balance right now. And so the comp plan just exacerbates that imbalance. And so we, for the past 10 years, there's been a dumping of affordable housing in Ward 7. And what you're finding is that you're finding residents that are pushing back because there's so much low income housing in Ward 7, we're not able to draw, or we're not able to attract the type of amenities that other wards have. So it becomes a problem. And I think that it's a false choice. And we've been given a false choice. Now, on another note, in terms of the upflumming that's going to occur in Ward 7, and Chris and I had this conversation, what I am proposing and what I have proposed last time that this body has met is that we press our legislators to enact legislation that guarantees community benefits agreements, no matter what kind of development it is, whether or not it's from a PUD, a map amendment, or matter of right. If we have a guaranteed community benefits agreement that is negotiated with the ANC Commission, then we will at least be able to fight back, because I am not so sure that our council members are going to make the changes that we are requesting to this comprehensive plan. So we need to have plans to offset the upflumming, what's going to be contained in the comprehensive plan, and we need to offset it. And the only way that right now we can offset it is by demanding that there be CBA agreements in all phases of development, no matter what kind of development that it is. That will give some community voice and give back some of the great weight to advisory neighborhood commissions. The other thing that I've said, and Chris and I talked about this too, was the demand of communities for the council to enact legislation that takes 1.5% of the profit sharing from each development and put that in a citywide fund that will continue to fund things like universal child care, birth to 3, universal basic income, that will be able to help some of these families and to be able to help seniors, because we know that there are seniors that are struggling in Ward 3. It's not just Ward 7. There are seniors struggling in Ward 3, seniors on fixed incomes. And so we need to be able to deal with all of these issues. And if they're not going to change the comprehensive plan because they're trying to push it and kind of rush it through without allowing communities to do small area plans, if that happens, we have to have another counterbalance or another counterweight to the unmitigated disaster that is this comprehensive plan. And Margaret, I really like your idea of calling the comprehensive plan a form of ethnic cleansing. I really like that idea, and I'm going to be using that.
Thank you, Ambrose. And I do want to remind everybody that, the Grassroots Planning Coalition is not going to stop working when the comp plan is finalized, right? So these are the types of ideas like Ambrose Lane was talking about that we need to immediately gear into action to propose legislation, identify the council member who would introduce such legislation like a CBA, community benefit guarantee. So please be thinking about that and plan to continue to participate as we get to that point. We've been a little swamped with the comp plan, but a lot of good ideas have come up. In fact, even in some of our meetings with elected officials, Janice Lewis George in particular mentioned that she was interested in systems change. Like she said something about reshaping the zoning commission And we proposed also the Independent Planning Commission, you know, taking Office of Planning out of the Deputy Mayor's office, which has been raised over many years. So these are things we definitely need to start working together on as soon as we get through the comp plan.
And Parissa, I'm not using this to make an announcement, but many of you already know I am planning to run for the at-large seat in 2022. So even if this is not done through this process, I will introduce it as a council member.
Okay, Chris Otten, you have your hand up. Did you still want to speak, or was that an accidental hand?
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure everybody saw in the chat, I put the link to the slide tool map. I could do it again real quick. I'll put it there right now. This map is important. Everybody should click through this map at some point. Tell your neighbors about it, show your neighbors, talk to your agency about it. This is the slide tool map where you can see the current zoning as it is now on the FLUM, on the future land use map. And then the amazing array of spot zoning, developer-friendly spot zoning you'll see around the city. We had to, I just want to make this point very clear. If you go to plandc.dc.gov, this is the mayor's website for the comp plan changes, and I'm going to add that right now, plandc.dc.gov. Go to this site and tell me where you'll find in any reasonable way that the mayor's up-flumming, AKA up-zoning, 200 million square feet of land, habitable density land in this city. So we don't want the fiasco to be over, Meg. We want a rejection of this plan. This is not like, well, let's wait until this fiasco is over. We want them to reject. This is not planning in any modern society. You can't just with a swipe of the pen just say, oh, 200 million square feet of habitable space can be up-flummed, up-zoned right now without talking to those communities. We have several property owners who've written to me who said, I didn't even get asked about this up-zoning. They just did it. They didn't even ask the property owners, let alone how it might affect the community. This is not planning. This is serving developer bottom line. And the effect of that is the status quo, what we've seen over the last 15 years, which is massive displacement. So this cannot be acceptable, right? And so I just want to make sure people are writing now. We're going to do it. I know we're going to do a take action email and follow up to this meeting, but people have to be writing now to your council member and say, this was not discussed. There's no small area plan. This is simply a swipe of the pen that upzones areas that's going to exacerbate displacement. And even if you want the upzoning, the amount of population growth that is being proposed here deserves planning, does it not? An example of not planning is Union Market, 20 projects, 40 acres, 6,000 new housing units. OP, the Office of Planning, the mayor, brokered 10 affordable family size units out of those 6,000 new up-zoned, up-flummed units, okay? Now, do you think there was any discussion, even if you say, okay, who cares about affordable housing? 6,000 new units. Do you think there was any discussion about libraries, parks, schools, clinics, more transportation, utility impacts? Do we need more? This is not planning, folks. This is straight up giveaway of printing money for landowners. So anyway, I just, we're going to do a follow-up, I know, on this. We're asking you to take action. We're not waiting for this to be over. There's no waiting. We have to take action now. We don't want this plan because it's a plan for the developers. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Chris. So I just wanted to share, and I had a typo in here, so I'm trying to change it, but I don't have time to do that right now. These are some of the next steps. we are, continuing as I mentioned earlier, the housing justice priorities were turned into housing justice amendments. We're continuing to share those with different council offices. As soon as the chairman drops his marked up, his version of the bill for the markup, which is we expect will come out, a couple days before March 16th. We'll send that out. We'll have to scour it. We'll have to see, what improvements did he make, or hopefully not even worse changes, and analyze that quickly and get action alerts out with key, asks around the final changes that we want to address before this bill gets passed. Hopefully we'll work with specific council members to introduce amendments or changes that Phil Mendelson did not address in his version. For instance, some of the stuff that was raised today about the properties that are impacted by the flum changes. We will attend virtually the markup and be tweeting and sharing on social media and commenting and continue to push our priorities through the final vote. That might be early April, because they have 2 weeks usually between the first and second vote on bills before finalized. However, if there's a lot of debate and council members are not happy with it, it may stretch. It may stretch even into the fall. We'll see, because they're going to be dealing with the budget and, oversight and budget hearings as well. If it's still controversial, it may be pushed into the fall, but it may be finalized in April. So the other thing that's coming up is, and so as Chris mentioned, we will be putting out in the next couple of days, the action alert where you can quickly send emails to the council, can also be used as a guide for making calls to the council. There is a, excuse on my typos, there is a hearing on March 18th at noon that Phil Mendelson is chairing, oversight of the Office of Planning and the Zoning Commission. This may come, after the markup. So we will have seen maybe his draft of the comp plan. This could be a chance to continue to raise our concerns about the lack of planning that Chris was talking to, about the flum changes, and other issues, with the comp plan process, as well as Office of Planning and Zoning in general. So if you want to sign up for that, please do. You can do it through this link on the chairman's website. If you're representing an organization, even, a tenant association, a PTA, a church, anything like that, we do ask for you to sign on to the housing justice priorities, which is at this tiny URL. We will include these types of links in a follow-up email. And before we close, I just want to allow there to be a few minutes if anybody has any final burning questions, because we only have a few minutes, or announcements that people want to share, especially if there's any actions that we can take in support of the impacted communities who spoke today. So again, I'm gonna see if there's any hands raised for announcements or actions.
Hi, Parissa. It's a question from Bill Rice about the did you hear Julia Costa say it's approved by resolution, one reading, not two readings, as for a bill?
That's not what we were told by other council offices, and I don't think Julia said that to us either when we met with her. So we can seek clarification from Julia Costa, but my understanding is that there will be two readings. She even said, I think in our meeting, that it could stretch into the fall, but then she won't be there anymore. So she said something to that effect. So, but we'll seek clarification on that. Does anybody else on the call have clarification on that?
Mendelson himself said it was going to be, when he met with us, said it was going to be two votes. That was out of his mouth.
Any hands raised for announcements? Okay, well, again, we don't need to go to the last second if we're done with that.
Oh, wait, can I make an announcement?
Yes, please.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I was just texting with Beth. I'm hoping Miss Elliott might be able to announce, but I know I'm part of this because of the SaveMcMillan.org Action Coalition. But next Tuesday, there is a protest, a virtual protest of Ward 5 Council member Kenya McDuffie. I know there's some Ward 5 folks on this call, including Brooklyn Manor, will be leading this protest next Tuesday between 4:30 and 6 p.m. And you can, maybe we can put that in the blast. I guess I'm getting a text from Beth. Maybe Miss Elliott could speak about this right now. Miss Elliott, are you online?
Yes.
Go ahead, Miss Elliott. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, I was just wondering, I was just saying, had everyone thought about in the near future, not now, doing a citywide march, you know, on the councilmen's and things like that, because I come from the old school. I can remember, I'm 83, so I've been here a long time. So I can remember when Marion Barra and the rest of them, we had problems and things like that. We got busloads of people. I know we have the virus and things like that, but we wearing masks. We get out here and wear them to go to the store. And I know housing is the most important thing, because if you don't have any place to stay, you don't have to even hardly worry about a mask. You see what I'm saying? So my thing, have we ever thought about having a movement, all the properties all at one time, even trying to put a pool in and have buses to bring people who are not able to? I mean, just a day of it to let people know it's just not individual organizations and things, but the whole citywide.
I'll pay for 3 buses. I will pay for 3 buses. Just telling you that right now.
All right, let's get a planning committee going. Beth, you have your do you have your hand up too?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Miss Elliott covered it basically, but in maybe the first step as we plan more of a citywide movement is there is a virtual protest against Kenya McDuffie, Ward 5 council member, who has sided with developers over the residents and also other residents in Ward 5 and across the district impacted by bids. So if you can join, it's virtual. So hopefully you can. I dropped the events link in the chat so everybody can have that information.
Thank you, Beth. We're going to have to close here in a minute. Was there somebody trying to make a comment? I hear a line unmuted. Okay. So there was a question in the chat about whether Brian McClure from the Council Office on Racial Equity can answer questions. We're going to collect all the questions that were put, that were directed to him. We're going to send them to him. And we have invited him to be a guest at our next meeting. So perhaps that will happen, but we'll definitely be in touch with him and share these questions and send the responses. He wasn't officially, you know, here to speak today. So out of respect, you know, we appreciate him coming and listening, and look forward to having him on another call, I hope. So with that, I want to thank you all for being part of the meeting today. Thanks for everything that you're doing. Let's continue this movement and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Feel free to unmute and say goodbye to everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Good information.
Great program.
Thank you, Miss Elliott.
Please drop the link for the virtual protest.
Right.
Yeah.
Radical. I wonder how that's going to go down. A virtual protest.
The in-person protest.
Love you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Keep fighting.
Good trouble.
Everybody.
A lot of fun.
Great. You're wonderful.
Reggie, did you have a question about the virtual protest?
I said it's going to be a healthy dose of good trouble and probably a lot of fun.
That's what we need is good trouble.
We gotta put that on the
Right.
flyer.
Yeah, good trouble.
Good trouble.
All right, I'm closing it out now. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Teresa.
Bye-bye.